Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Everything in Moderation podcast. We have Christian and Anthony with us today, and today we are discussing
Hello.
Christopher Columbus Day.
Hello, loves. How you doing?
So, what do you guys think of this highlight? Is it Indigenous Peoples Day, or is it Christopher Columbus Day? What do you guys think?
It's Christopher Columbus Day, and it's nothing else. I mean, if you want to say Coming Out Day, as an exception, but I will never ever call this day Indigenous Peoples Day. It's a day that we celebrate what Christopher Columbus did for the New World and Italian Americans, making an impact on America. Since I myself am an Italian American who's my grandparents immigrated from Italy and they worked their way up to middle class. So I take a lot of pride in Christopher Columbus Day. And understand. Yes, Christopher Columbus is looked at now as a controversial figure because he killed the Indians, but he didn't steal their land. He conquered their land.
Imperialism. Okay.
Conquest, baby.
Imperialism did create this, so this is great. So,
Yeah, I think
what's your take, Christian?
I think that's probably the angle that I'd like to tackle it from, is that you can say that what he did was certainly wrong by today's standards, but the fact of the matter is if it didn't happen, we probably wouldn't be here in the way that we're here today.
Yes.
And I think that there's no, you shouldn't really condone the actions of what he did when he was here, rape, pillaging, all that stuff. It's one thing if you just fight the people that are fighting and then you just leave the women and children or whoever is just like not able to fight. I always think that that's how classy war is done. Just leave the innocent people alone. And then go ham on the soldiers. But that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. But it has become a day progressively that's become synonymous with Italian heritage, and being that I'm Italian too, it's not something I go around like parading, but it's something I'm like, just think about all the great Italian people who came to this country and, made innovation or, made lens and stuff like he did, which yes, of course, not exactly the best thing, but he did something that was pretty historical. So it's worth remembering at least.
Makes sense. So personally, I actually celebrated something like this 2 days ago because I am part Norwegian, very small portion. But I opened my door that day and I yelled at the sky and said, "Woo! I'm celebrating Leif Erikson." Why? Because I believe he discovered America. Why? Because he went to America 500 years before Christopher Columbus. Now, why do we say that Christopher Columbus discovered America?
I really couldn't tell you, honestly. I missed that. I forgot that.
It's definitely a huge turning point in history because when Christopher Columbus founded the area, we landed in Jamaica, then Bahamas, and then America. When he went there, really colonies started like coming in, and that's when we started colonizing the area. So it's definitely a huge turning point in history. So that's definitely not to be a thing. But I would say Christopher Columbus discovered America like a car thief discovers a car. He went into the car, said, "This is my car now," and went out. So let's talk about Christopher Columbus just himself. Okay, so the reason why he wanted to go to the New World, at least wanted to find it, it wasn't because everybody thought the Earth was flat and he wanted to prove them wrong. We actually knew that way back in the ancient Greeks. So that's not a theory. We should not talk about that. He actually wanted to go for gold. So he actually went through a few expeditions before, and a lot of people have been telling him that there's this area, like if you go kind of like across the sea there might be some riches. So he's like, fuck it, let me go over, search the area. So what he did was he landed, he hit Jamaica, and then he found people there, and he just was like, okay, there's basically no gold there. This is a waste island. And then he hit the Bahamas. And then what he found with the people in the Bahamas was that they were wearing gold jewelry around their necks. And he was very interested in that. So he's very kind to them. And those people in Bahamas were very kind to him in turn. They actually helped him repair his ship when he came to, when he landed, really kind of like effed up their ship. So he helped them repair, and then they sent 27 people from the tribe over to come back to England with him. Okay, so 20 people did not make it from that, and that's just, back old times, just going to happen on a ship. 7 of them did. So they go back, and he goes back over to the Queen, and he says, there's gold here, and these people are really dumb and are really kind to me, and they don't really have too many weapons, and we have tons and tons of weapons, and there's tons and tons of gold there. So how about you and me, we just, send a whole bunch of arms over there, and let's go get some freaking gold, and let's get rich. And the Queen's like, hell yeah. I mean, if what you're saying is correct, let's do it. So Christopher Columbus, and let's talk about a little like known fact. Before that even happened, Christopher Columbus had to go stop for food and didn't have any food. He went and stopped in Jamaica again. What he did in Jamaica was he forced the residents to give him food. You know how? He predicted he at least knew, because we knew astrology at that point, that a solar eclipse is going to happen. So he told the indigenous people of Jamaica, if you don't give me food, I will take away the sun. And the indigenous people said, no, you're not, idiot. Next day later, solar eclipse. They flipped out. They literally started praising him as a god, and then just gave him all the food they want and all the women. It was nuts. So Christopher Columbus is definitely a smart dude. So don't take him, lightly, but it's definitely not too good of a dude, and you'll see why coming. So he comes back to the Bahamas, and he basically is like, okay, listen, guys, I'm going to take you guys over, and you have a say about it? I don't really care. I'm just going to go, and you're going to mine gold for me. Who's rebelling? Okay, they're like, oh, I'm going to go rebel. They kill about 1/3 of the entire tribe. So now they are a quelled rebellion. Now these people are mining in the gold mine. It's not all too bad. You get a month break every once in a while to go live normally instead of into the gold mines. And you get a little gold necklace for that. Okay. Now say you're like, I'm escaping the gold mine. I need to get out of this hellhole that I'm in and this little slavery I'm in, and leave. So if someone is caught in the tribe outside without a gold necklace, their hand would get chopped off, and they would wear it around their neck. And next time they find them not in the mine with the hand around their neck, they get killed. So that's basically the whole system that went around with gold. And guess who profited from that? England. So this is just a classic example of imperialism in the old age, right? Obviously this is horrible. This sounds horrible, but ultimately, what did it lead to? It led to the creation of America. So Columbus Day, is it good or bad because of this?
I'd say it's very, very good. Very good. We have Columbus Day to celebrate Italian American heritage and the good things that Christopher Columbus did for the New World. Obviously, yes. I mean, but it goes to a time, where we go to school where we're taught that Christopher Columbus was not so great of a person, but but the whole, like, I'd say, quote unquote bad things that he did are, I would say, kind of like minuscule, if we're say, because that's not the whole point of how we celebrate Columbus Day. We celebrate Columbus Day to remember the good things that Columbus did, were his contributions to the world and Italian American heritage, which I remember earlier in my education career, obviously, from grades 1 through 12. we used to have off for Columbus Day, and around like middle school, I didn't have off for Columbus Day anymore.
That sucks, right? And the banks changed it too, which I didn't like.
Well, you want to know something? Columbia Bank issued their Happy Columbus Day post on LinkedIn today, so that was pretty funny. But given that that's where their name comes from, it's not avoidable. The country Columbia gets their name from Christopher Columbus, our nation's capital, District of Columbia. Also draws from that.
Here's one thing I want to ask you guys. So obviously from what you probably have seen is you see a bunch of Christopher Columbus statues get taken down from like cities and towns because Christopher Columbus was is labeled as a terrible person. And I believe that this is like a racing history because we need to learn about Christopher Columbus and the good things that he's did. Do you think taking down these statues is a good thing or a bad thing?
Can I counter to this argument? Why doesn't Germany have statues of Hitler? He revolutionized Germany's economy. He revolutionized Germany's machine economy.
Hitler and Columbus are two different individuals, and Hitler tried to eradicate a race, and Columbus didn't do that.
Did he? He didn't eradicate a race. He quite well did. He was the catalyst. So if we were to compare the dinosaurs to the indigenous people and Christopher Columbus to the meteorite, it quite literally was that. But why was it? It wasn't directly because of his actions. It was because the diseases that we bring over that effectively did it. I'm not saying that it is directly his fault. I'm saying that his coming here was the primary 3 to 5 million indigenous people died from disease directly because of people coming to America. And that's because they weren't exposed.
I would say that.
So here's the thing. But when we talk about Christopher Columbus as a person, here is where I statistically draw the line. I compare him to Hitler because of this. He was a slaver, and not only a slaver, he was a child sex slaver. Not even kidding you. So Columbus began when he actually had his gold mine, rewarding his lieutenants. So he would reward them with young girl sex slaves who were forced into sexual slavery. In a letter, Columbus remarked upon how girls between the ages of 9 and 10 could be used as currency. 100 castillos are easily obtained for a woman as for a farm, and is very general, and there are plenty of dealers who go that, looking for girls. Those from 9 to 10 are now in demand. So tell me, is this really someone we should be idolizing on a statue? I would compare someone like this to the arms of Hitler, who wanted to commit mass genocide. I hate pedophiles. People that take advantage of young children are horrible people. I think that Christopher Columbus was a horrible person, not only because he was a slaver, but because he had absolutely no morals, and the only thing that he cared about was gold. And that I will leave it at simply that.
Well, I'm gonna say that comparing Hitler to Columbus is a very extreme take to have. But I just say this. Columbus did, what he had to do. And I mean, do you think he meant all this on purpose? Probably not, because, he lived like about 400, 500 years ago. Hitler, he lived less than 100 years ago. And he tried to eradicate a whole religion and race. And we look at Hitler as a stain to the world, and Columbus is revered. And I would say he should be revered and not crucified by so many people that just are just spreading misinformation.
I would just ask why. Why is Christopher Columbus why are we celebrating Lee Ferguson today? Why is Christopher Columbus the one person that we celebrate in America? And also, let's talk about the inception real quick of Christopher Columbus Day. So Christopher Columbus Day did not appear in as a federal holiday, way back when. It's actually created. It was created in 1925 by the Knights of Columbus, and they kept on spamming the federal government for this. They argued that they needed a white ethno figure to represent for young boys and girls to think, this is what we should look up to. Here's the problem. These people had a lack of information about who Christopher Columbus was. When you look on the surface, all he did was went over the seas, created a cool country. But now that we live in the 21st century and we have computers can look up the actual history of this man, we find out that he is a horrible child sex slaver. So all I got to say is maybe we should update our holidays. Like when we find out the guy that we celebrated was a horrible, horrible person. I'm not saying, I did compare him to Hitler. Maybe that's wrong. But I would say to you, do you think a child sex slaver should be celebrated? That is my simple argument.
I personally think that, because specifically that this holiday has become an Italian American holiday, I think that there's better Italian Americans to, draw from. If we wanted
Like
to,
who?
if we wanted to switch the holidays up, but
You can just do Sinatra, man, like Sinatra Day.
Sinatra Day.
Please, Sinatra Day would just be 10 times better. Like he was an awesome guy. Like, so what? He was a little bit in the mob, right? He was a little bit in the mob, but he was a freaking awesome person. And he definitely represented the capitalist spirit. So how about we go replace him? But that's the one thing I wanted to ask you guys. I personally think there's a reason why America was so okay with taking this down as a holiday. What does Christopher Columbus celebrate that America does today?
Well, going back to your Knights of Columbus point, Knights of Columbus is a religious organization. I know a lot of people who are in the Knights. My church has Columbus organization. So they're very heavy on religion and they meet often. I'm not a Knight, but I know people who are. What was your question, Danny? You said.
So my ultimate question was, what did Christopher Columbus ultimately represent that America wanted to draw from and create a holiday of? Because we didn't honestly want this as a holiday before the Knights of Columbus, mentioned it, or else we would have already made it a federal holiday. What did we like about Christopher Columbus? Especially in the 1930s. Especially in the 1930s.
Is the fact that he basically made what makes America great. He brought over a lot of good things, and he did a lot of good things for the Italian American community. It's kind of like a theme now. I'm going to be saying Italian Americans throughout this episode, but like I mentioned before, he's done a lot of good things, Columbus, and yes, I understand. He didn't end up in America first. Or he ended up in Spain or Jamaica, and but I think that we have to realize that he was a good person. Remember, he existed hundreds of years ago. We're just going to crucify him for his way of living. I wouldn't. I'd basically be the same thing.
The Queen almost did. The Queen almost actually killed him.
Slaves.
The Queen almost actually killed him for bringing back 100 slaves. The Queen, without bringing back gold first, though. So you always got to pay off the Queen first. But here's the thing I wanted to say.
When George Washington died, he released his slaves. I'm not going to judge. And he was born with slaves. Even most of the founding fathers had slaves. And most people like to say, oh, we were founded on slavery. They what slavery during our 9 out of 13. So there's no way.
I would say there's a difference between the American archetype of slavery and what Columbus did, because Columbus was really directly enslaving people and putting them in gold mines and forcing them. Very horrible labor. But here's what I wanted to draw from this. How does capitalism internationally work? We don't realize this. We as a nation destroy other nations through imperialism, capitalism. What am I talking about? What are we doing for Venezuela? What are we doing to Cuba? What are we doing to the rest of South America? What are we doing? Let's give me a really good example right now. What are we doing in Syria? Do we have boots on the ground? Yes. Do we have direct involvement in there? Yes. Why? Why do we go to Afghanistan? Why do we go to Iraq? Why do we go to these places? We go because it's very good for us because there's resources there. And we are very good at extracting those resources. And if they won't want to give those resources to us, we'll freaking take them. And that is how the capitalist system in America works. And, and here's okay. I'm a capitalist. And I admit this is just going to happen. For example, if I want to eat chocolate, guess what? People in Africa, little children, are going to get adopted and put on cocoa farms. I'm okay with that. Why? Because the world's a horrible freaking place. Okay? And that's just capitalism. It's not right, but maybe that country should do a little bit better in treating their citizens, right? However, this is the ultimate shitty thing about capitalism. We will, at some point down the line of the supply chain, there is some point that gets exploited. And we need to take a critical look at it. And, this type of imperialism that happened in Columbus's day was really bad. However, this shit still happens. We're still making money off other nations. We don't do the same type of colonialism as we did way back when, but there is a huge form of capitalist imperialism that we need to at least acknowledge. And if we don't, we're not having a sober look about what our economy is operating on.
Well, I definitely have to say something because you took a shot on capitalism, so I definitely have to say something. Well, first of all, I definitely want to say that capitalism is a system where the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. And mentioning stuff like Afghanistan and Iraq, like Afghanistan and Iraq are countries that hate us. Pakistan hates us. And I remember like something that Maria mentioned before. I remember she said that she doesn't like capitalism because it's for people who work hard. You have to work hard for what you want. Well, I hate to break it to you, Maria, but that's how it works. That's how the United States works. I'm not going to be sleeping in my bed all day expecting to make $1,000,000. I have to work hard for those $1,000,000.
What do you say about a day trader?
Yeah.
I am a day trader too. I mean, technically, yeah, but if you're like a full-time day trader, you'll make a lot of money.
If you're a capitalist, listen. If you're think of Warren Buffett. If you're a capitalist, if you're a true capitalist, you are not the one who's doing your own labor. You had the amazing idea to own a business that other people do your labor for you. Ultimately, I mean, we all have to, it's just an admission. I'm not saying that capitalism is a horrible system and that it doesn't make people's lives ultimately
Sounds
better,
like you are.
because it really does. I mean, I'm a capitalist and I think capitalism is a good system. However, if we're going to have a sober talk about our system, we need to recognize our system's faults. And our system's fault is that somewhere down the supply chain, someone is getting fucked because that is how competition works, right? There's some area where people, like, for example, why was China the production capital of the world? Why did we buy literally everything out of China? Because they had child laborers. How does that even compete with normal laborers?
They still have slave labor in China for Nike.
Yeah, I mean, it's stuff like that, right? It's that they have a way more competitive labor market than us. So guess what? We're going to use that, and it is an exploitative system. However, we need to recognize that and say, wait a minute. I mean, it's not really our problem, and if you really had a problem with it, go get unionized labor. I mean, you could literally get unionized labor t-shirts in America, buy them. They're more expensive, but make that decision yourself. Destroy that notion that, some things, cheap is always good. That if you destroy that notion, then that, capitalism can work in a very good way.
Well, yeah, it does work in a good way. Like I said, I've already defended capitalism already, and I don't need to reiterate my argument. But basically, like I said, people work hard for what they need to get, and That's pretty much bottom line of it. But if we're taking so much shots on capitalism now, you know, why did Christopher Columbus come here in the first place then? If it's so,
Capitalism. He wanted gold. He just wanted
that was
money.
a rhetorical question. That was just a rhetorical question.
I had to answer it because he was driven. He Christopher Columbus is the culmination of every capitalist in America. We want to grow. I am a capitalist. I want to go and make money. I want to find a way to make lots of money. How am I going to do that? Somewhere down the line, I'm going to have to exploit someone's labor. For example, I am very interested in the stock market. Other people are very interested in the stock market. Guess where I make all my money from? I make a lot of my money from people being very scared about stocks and being, I'm going to sell, and then losing money off of it. And then I buy their shares. This is called shorting, by the way. I buy their shares, and thank you. I am making money off of these people. And guess what I care about? I care.
Sounds like a pyramid scheme.
It's not a pyramid scheme. This is really the process of shorting stocks.
I think a pyramid scheme is the people at the top make the most money. Then there's 2 people, then 3, 4, 5, 6. A perfect example of pyramid scheme is Vector Marketing or Cutco. If you're watching this and you're working for Vector or Cutco, I would advise you to leave that company.
Leave instantly.
Leave instantly.
I really hope it isn't that,
a pyramid scheme.
Because that means hedge funds
are
hedge funds pyramid schemes? I hope not. I mean, GameStop was pretty pyramid schemy. I mean, everybody was like shorting that, and then like freaking Wall Street Bets goes in and just volumes that up, and then it busts. But here's the thing, right? We have to accept as capitalists that we exploit people's labor, or we can't be okay with what we do. I am okay with exploiting people's labor and the fact that they are literally losing money in order for me to gain money on the market. Okay, I'm okay with that. And that's pretty much all I really do if I had a business, I would be ultimately exploiting labor because I'm not giving them their equal version of their productivity because I literally can't, right? It's not efficient in the business. We have to just recognize it, just plain on simple. And then when you do, is when you can make better changes. Like, if I recognize that I'm, ultimately going to exploit my worker, what is my worker? Let's negotiate with my worker. Let's say, what do you want? That way they can at least give their freaking, opinion on what they want to get paid. And then I can say, oh, that's too much or that's too little. When you give people more of an option, it's better. But, when we talk about a global economy scale, it's not that easy, and it will never happen. And it's simply just America. America will always operate this way, and we can't really do anything really about it. And I wouldn't say it's a bad or a good thing. I would just say this is America. America. Fuck yeah. I love capitalism, and I wouldn't be living in America if I didn't. I'd probably live I don't know, New Zealand or whatever, but maybe on that day that I don't, and I won't. But I love America, and I will not move. So
yeah, I think that's the tough thing. Like, a lot of people are against some of the American fundamental values that we have here, especially recently. You see that a lot of the youngsters, as they say, are against the the capitalistic regime that we have.
The big problem is we don't have a lot of capitalists in America. We ultimately do not have a lot of people that know how to make wealth off of their money. And that's what a capitalist is.
Our country is being overdriven by socialists.
Well, just people they don't want to live that way anymore. I mean, people don't want to learn that. I mean, I love the stock market.
Yeah.
I want to be in it constantly. I look at it every single day. I'm in there like a freaking book. Okay. However, people don't care about that stuff all the time.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I care about it because I have ADHD and I need something to give me, attention 24/7. And I also understand that if I don't do this, I'll be, not the same income that I will be very long down the line. But the reason why is because we have the internet now. We are living in a age of transformation. Soon, we'll probably not even have to work jobs. And I know this is nutty that I'm saying this, but like, when I'm old and I'm a boomer, I'm gonna look back and say, what jobs got deleted? And then I'm gonna say, uh-oh,
Oh, I'm a
20
boomer.
years from now, we're gonna not really have any jobs left because robots are gonna take them all. So we need
That's
to
kind of like our AI
understand,
episode.
but we need to understand, what is the meaning of our existence here? Is it to go and drive and grind for money and just, live the best life that we can off of what we can make? Or is it ultimately doing what you like, doing what you like and getting paid good for it, right? If I'm a ammo smith and I'm going through a really bad time with, the prices that's happening with ammo right now, and I'm making no money, it sucks because I love my job, but I make no money. I can't do it anymore. And that is, I would say, consequence of capitalism, is that certain industries are just not going to be well paid, because there's not that demand. It's all about supply and demand, and ultimately the market will always be inefficient in some areas, right? And we can see those inefficiencies clear as day. And it's the things that we complain about as Americans every day. And that's all I'll say. Columbus is capitalism, and that's why we celebrate him. And we'll see. Indigenous Peoples Day might take over. I don't really care, to be honest. Leif Erikson all the way. And that's it from me.
Yeah.
So I just want to just say, obviously what Danny said, Columbus equals capitalism, and Columbus Day also equals Italian American Heritage Day or month, because it's also Italian American Heritage Month. I was look at the good that Columbus has done, except keep out the bad. Obviously, I'm always rooting for Columbus Day. Indigenous Peoples Day, I could care less about. I mean, like, yeah, I care about I care a lot about the minorities, but Indigenous Peoples Day is supposed to be the day you're celebrating. It's like the anti-Columbus Day, which is what I don't really like about it. But
It's at least move it to another day,
remember,
right?
I guess so. But I think remember it was about capitalism. There's a quote by Ronald Reagan I want to share. Um, if we ever lose freedom here, there's nowhere else we can go. This is the last stand on Earth. And that's just very relevant to today, because what's going on in America right now is pretty bad. So just look at the good that Columbus has done, and look at the good capitalism has done, and just be educated.
I think that Anthony made a good point with Indigenous Peoples Day being anti-Columbus Day. I think that if Indigenous Peoples Day wanted to be a thing like years ago, it would have been, but it directly just like came about because of people being appalled with Columbus's actions, and stuff like that. Like that's something I criticize on the right and the left, their counterculture stances, which are just pretty lame in my
Very
opinion.
lame.
Like if you want to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, go right ahead. You'll probably get more support if it was on a day of its own and not directly trying to overcome its opposite, um I don't really have a problem with an Indigenous Peoples Day. I don't really have a problem with Columbus Day. In terms of Italian heritage, we have a couple of these days, so I don't really care if we lose this one in particular. But we have the Feast of Saint Joseph. Like that's most Italians are Roman Catholic anyway, so it's something that should correlate. But in Hoboken they have the Sinatra stuff, all that stuff. So there's a lot of Italian Americans were one of the minorities that helped bring this nation up to where it is now, especially in the early 1900s, because that was like it was in waves, and Irish and Italians played a big part in the early 1900s to now, and still do. And then who knows what this generation is going to be? But that's the good thing about America is there's a lot of people came here for very different reasons, as we have learned today.
Mixing pot or the salad bowl.
And it helps the diversity that we have here in terms of all these different ethnicities is what creates the American culture.
Right.
And in the past you've seen me like I'm a big supporter of keeping like homogenous nations, homogenous like Hungary, Japan, stuff like that. But America, this is what America was founded on, and I think that's something that should continue, and it's something that we should, work to try to become a little more unified in this sense, because right now we're living in times of lots of disagreement. But
Yes, we
that's why I'm
are.
thankful I have
I
this
agree, Christian.
podcast. That's why I'm thankful I have this podcast, because we all have different points of views. But it's a nice time to talk about different stuff without having our heads chopped off. It's good
Definitely.
stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, what color skin you are, or what religion you are. Everyone's entitled to their beliefs at the end of the day. I don't care, what you are. At the end of the day, you're still human, and every human life matters.
Yep.
All right. So that will wrap it up for this episode of Everything in Moderation podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.
Later,
See you
guys.
guys.